Howdy, howdy, hey, how are you doing today? I'm the MoonFrog, and in this one, we're finally figuring out a driveline for the Burnout accent. Alright, so the Burnout Car. For those who don't know, it's a 2005 Hyundai accent that I first built when I was 14, 15 years old. And, well, I got tired of the front wheel drive real fast and decided that Chevy Big Block 396 would be a better option with a rear wheel drive, obviously. And the goal for this car is to just blow off some tires. And it's kind of a Australian burnout car, but the rat rod way, I guess. So if you like rust, if you like weird cars, weird builds, or if you just like big powers and things that might blow up, you might want to think about hitting that subscribe button. But now let's get into it. So, if you watched our last video, you will remember that we just finished mounting our engine and transmission in the car. And if you rewind even further than that, we got a rear cage built in, not for safety, but to hold the Ford 8.8 rear end, which was supposed to be a 9-inch, but the 9-inch option was just way too expensive for this kind of build. So we just pulled a Ranger rear end, and I shortened the one side. So now it runs both short axles, and well, now we have to run power to it. So from our Turbo 400, we need to bust a hole in the floor around here and run a drive shaft down to that 8.8, which we're going to have to modify either this drive shaft or get a Chevy drive shaft and get a swap joint for the Ford 8.8 flange. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Now, my main concern here is to pass the drive shaft to our rear end that's sitting right down there. We have to run it right through here. If you ever notice the state of this car, most of the flooring is gone. There's no floor there. I cut it out. There, nature cut it out. And then behind me, well, nature cut it out there as well. So, I kind of fear that if I put a big hole right here in its last piece of good structure, it might try to split open or something like that. So now I have to find a way to prevent that if it does happen. And if it doesn't happen, well, I will have spent all this time figuring this out for no reason. But I mean, yeah, better be safe than sorry. I would rather spend a few minutes tying a body together than cutting it up and then having to pull it together. So yeah, ratchet strap will probably do the job. Alright, so we're not going to put too much tension on it. Just so if it does open up, we notice. It'll gain tension and it'll turn into an E string. So now let's figure out where we have to make that hole. From the center here, we have to go down about like 2 or 3 inches, and I'm gonna get a measuring tape. Alright, so I got our nice little square traced out. Now it's going to be time to cut it out. And this is the nerve-wracking moment where we see if the body tries to split open on us. Because I mean, if this body decides to do the splits, I am no chiropractor of the vehicle kind, or the human kind either. That's why my body's all messed up. Well, we have a lot of weight on this, which I could take the weight off or take the weight out. But then if I take the engine and transmission out, then we don't know where the transmission is to get our angle and stuff. We're gonna leave it all as is. We got that mighty little ratchet strap in there. Hopefully it's gonna be good enough if it does decide to split open. And let's just hope it doesn't. Either way, we're gonna find out here shortly if we're messing up or succeeding. And if we mess up, it's just a pile of junk anyways. Worst case, it will just be like an inch wider. Alright, so that's a hole. Hopefully it fits right in. Oh. Wow, like a glove. Like a glove! Almost like I measured it. Alright, so the camera died, obviously, but I got the shaft fully bolted in, and I'm gonna call it there for tonight. We got our pieces here tacked in place, all ready to support the power of the skids, as the Australians would say. And yeah, we'll be back tomorrow, all freshened up. Tomorrow we will head over to the junkyard and hopefully find a turbo 400 yoke, maybe with a U-joint and a shaft that hopefully is going to fit with the Ranger shaft. But yeah, we're going to leave it there for tonight, and we'll get back to it in the morning. So it is the next day, and like I said, it is time for a junkyard adventure. So we are now headed over to our friend's Mosho to see if he hopefully has a yoke for our Turbo 400. Let's go. Alright, well, we made it to the junkyard. Mosho's in the shop working away on some stuff, and in the meantime, we're gonna explore and see what's around here. Got some van full of drivetrain stuff. So a bunch of vans, but we're not really into vans. That's not what we're here for. Some axles, that's a little more interesting. Still nothing that we really need though. So we're here looking for a drive shaft, but I'm just not sure where Mo keeps his drive shafts. So much junk, I love it. Look at this fucking beauty. Ha ha ha. More eggs, more eggs, more eggs. This is like heaven. Beautiful sunny day, walking through piles of junks and looking for some broken stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna keep looking around, hopefully find one of those yoke, and if I see something interesting, I'll get back to you guys. Ooh, talking about interesting, look at this rig.
Oh, that's greasy.
That's really fucking greasy.
Yeah, that's greasy. Greasy.
Now that's pretty freaking badass. Stick shift, big old bed, and that would actually be one hell of a revival. Having that as a wood struck, fucking mint. All right, let's go check out the rest of this pile of junk. I guess that's kind of a find. It's a functioning supercharger, or it seems to be all right anyways. The downside is that's made for a fuel injection setup, and I just don't think we could make it work on our carbureted 396. So we're gonna keep looking for more cool shit. Never know, there might be something good for our build here. I'll get back to you guys when I find some more cool shit. Now would you look at this big fucking rig? Anybody home? Nope, guess not. Do we have any drive shafts in here? Well, there is one shaft there. What's this all about? Alright, I'm gonna try to pull that shaft out, or at least go try to see the other end of it. And I don't know. Hopefully it fits a turbo 400. If not, we'll keep searching for it. It's gotta be here somewhere. Shit out of luck. I think this is a 30 spline of something. Now I'm trying to think, does a turbo 400 have a master spline? I don't know. I never fucking checked. Probably should have. We're gonna keep looking. If something pops up, I'll get back to you guys, and hopefully we can find our 32 spline yoke for our Burnout Hyundai Accent Turbo 400. Yeah, let's keep looking. Well, after walking my way all the way back here and looking through all these vans that I just skipped over earlier, sitting right on the side here is a 32 spline with a master spline, but that counts for two, right? And I think this might fit the Turbo 400. So anyways, we're gonna walk out. We're gonna ask Mo if we can have this, and we'll go back home later, try it on the transmission, and if we're lucky enough, this is gonna work. The downside of this, we don't have a piece of shaft going from this to the other, but there is another yoke similar to that one here, and I think that one's attached to a shaft. I'm just gonna unpile a little bit of this stuff, pull it out, or I'm actually gonna count the splines first, and then if it's the same splinage as this one, we're gonna pull it out and bring it out to Mo. All right, finally got that thing pulled out. It was wedged in there pretty good. But now I don't really want to take the full thing because it's a two-piece and I only have a Chevy Spark. If you know how big a Chevy Spark is, it's not big enough to carry this long of a drive shaft. So I'm gonna try and find something to separate it right here. And then we can just take the front part, make sure it fits on the transmission without breaking it. If it doesn't fit, we'll bring it back. And if it does fit, well then we can cut it and make it work for the accent. So when you're lucky enough to have access to a junkyard, when someone lets you walk through it, pick out what you want. Always remember, when you take a part off, put it back where it was, just in case. They might know where it was. It might be organized to them. And it's a nice way to show appreciation for the junkyards. Because without them, without our good friend Mo, we would have had to pay full price for a yoke or get a custom shaft made. So yeah, thank you, Mo. And thanks to everyone out there having junkyards and recycling parts for people like me. Now let's get back home. All right, so we are back from the junkyard, and on our way out we had this one, and then Mo pointed out that he had this one, which is much beefier, and like I said, when you go in a junkyard and you take stuff apart, put the parts that you don't need back to where they belong, because those guys, they actually know exactly where it is. Just like in this case, Mo pointed me right in the direction where it was, and there it was. So don't go in people's junkyard making messes. But now it's time to figure out if these yokes fit on our Turbo 400. Alright, so we have this one, which is just separated but is the same size as the other ones. And if we try to slip it on there, we notice that it doesn't fit. Now, why won't it fit? That I'm not too sure. Because see, this is a Turbo 400, as far as I know. And those yokes should be from a 4L80E. And from what I found on Google, they should be the same. But here we are, and now I think I'm gonna have to hop back onto the Googles and figure out how this is not working and how to make it work. All right, so a little update before we get right back into it. So as far as I knew, we had a Turbo 400, and now as far as I know, we have a Turbo 375 instead, which is basically the little slow cousin of the 400. The only difference is we are downsizing on the slip yoke. We are now down to a 27 spline instead of 32. And I think the clutch packs in the transmission are slightly different, might be a few clutches less. So we'll have to keep that in mind. But since I last filmed, we went and picked up a different drive shaft from the scrapyard at Mosho's shop.
Fucking first thing he does, he's sitting there just gunning it, spinning the fucking tires, burning the engine out of it. The thing's probably fucked at this point. No brake burns, Ricky! No donuts! Fuck, he's gonna rack it.
And now I gotta make that one fit. So, good news. Good news. I am 99% sure I figured the drive shaft out. So, at first we were going to use this one, which is a Ford Ranger drive shaft from the back to the midsection to the slip section. And well, I realized that the size of the tube just would not work with the Chevy drive shaft that I have, since we have to piece them together. But conveniently, on the end of this Ford Ranger shaft, there was before there used to be a spline dent. So this was where the slip was at the transfer case, and it would go in this onto the transfer case. Whoever already worked on a Ranger probably knows this, but it was kind of new to me. And this is a freaking neat setup, because this flange is the same as the rear flange. So, and since those can be switched over, I can put the Chevy drive shaft in, which also has a spline dent. On the back end. So, the plan. We have the slip yoke for the transmission, Chevy two-wheel drive truck drive shaft, split in the middle at the slip, Ford Ranger front slip at the transfer case, right there. It doesn't fit right now, but I'm just going to grind out the splines in this, slip it over there, and then we can just slap that in the car, make sure it's the right length, tack it in place, rotate it, dial it in, weld it up, and then it'll be good enough to at least get the car running and moving, which at that point we might take the drive shaft back out and send it out to the shop to get it properly balanced, since we want it to be spinning at very, very high speeds. But anyways, now that we have it figured out,
My God, that's greasy.
Sometimes life is greasy, Bubbles.
all right, so we got our rear yoke hollowed out, or rather de-splined, and we have about 3 inches of slip onto the other shaft, which is plenty, and now we have to measure up the full length of the drive shaft. And I'm not saying this is how you should do it, but this is how I'm gonna do it. And from here, having it bottomed out into the transmission, we're gonna run our tape. We're gonna run our tape measure down to the front of the pinion. So not the flange, but the center nut in the middle of your pinion, the one that sticks out. And measuring from that front is gonna give us how much slip we need to get out of there, in and out, which here is just shy of 47. So we're gonna say 46 3/4. And then, since we want to make sure we have plenty of room even if something kind of tweaks a little bit, we are going to put another 1/4 inch onto that, which is going to give us a 46 1/2. And that measurement is going to be the measurement in between this U-joint cup and the rear U-joint cup. And now we just have to make sure it is at that precise measurement and perfectly lined up. So let's go get that done. All right, so 46.5. Right now we have 49, way too much. So we need about 2 inches off of this. And the way I'm gonna do that, instead of going at it with the Dremel again, I am going to shorten this shaft right here. All right, well, we got everything shortened up, and well, the shaft is all in one piece, technically. It's not welded, it's not even tacked, it is just slipped in one another, and that's about the right length. Now, I spent some time the other night trying to get the joints in phase and everything lined up on the bench, and I realized it was just going to take way too long, and I had very minimal chance of succeeding on this. So I'm going to take this, we're going to slap it in the car, make sure it's the right length. If it is, we'll start calling around some driveshaft shops and see if we can get it welded up, balanced, and readied up for this. Because now what I have to do is brace up the rear end and get that all readied up, so when we have the drive shaft ready, we can start powering the back wheels. So that's gonna be it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Burnout Car build, our 396 Accent, and if you're interested in this kind of hot rod, well, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. And till next time, go out, be rad.